Dear friends, I, Neelam Manjunath, welcome you all to our Simple Talks 4 from CGBMT School of Simple Living. Today we have Mr. Vishwanath Srikanthaiah, known to us as the Rain Man, Zen Rain Man, as our guest from Bengaluru. Welcome, Vishwanath. Mr. Vishwanath is a civil engineer and an urban planner. He has 33 years of experience in the water, wastewater, and sanitation sector, helping design rainwater harvesting, aquifer recharge, wastewater recycling, and eco-science systems. He is an adjunct professor and teaches a course on the theme water at the Ajit Premji University, Bangalore, India. He is a trustee with the Biome Environmental Trust. One of the current projects is to help the traditional well digging community build 1 million recharge wells for Bengaluru. He writes a weekly column called Waterwise for the last 12 years for The Hindu. He has been part of the expert committee which helped formulate the rainwater harvesting policy and law for Bengaluru, the wastewater policy for Karnataka, and the water policy for Karnataka being drafted by the Karnataka Knowledge Commission. Welcome, Mr. Vishwanath, to our forum once again.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, thank you. Mr. Vishwanath will be speaking to us about water and the city. So I will start right away, Mr. Vishwanath.
For sure, yes.
Yes. You are a civil engineer and an urban planner, as we gathered from your this thing. How and when your journey with this extremely important resource, water, started to become the Zen Rain Man?
Well, Zen Rain Man is just a handle that I use for Gmail and Twitter and Facebook as my identity. There's no title conferred by anybody, but it's a self-conferred title. So, well, the journey is actually one of serendipity. I was a civil engineer. As I was studying civil engineering, there was some amount of hydrology that one is taught, and one is also taught hydrogeology. These two particular subjects were something that I scored well in. I did score very well in all other subjects, but definitely in this, I was able to do good. I think I had a good teacher there, a good professor, and also the subject was very interesting. When I went into urban planning, broadly infrastructure was also something that we were taught, and we were taught the socio-economic aspect of planning. Then I joined the Housing and Urban Development Corporation, which is working on housing finance as well as urban infrastructure finance. Mm-hmm. But they were also spreading out into rural housing at the time I was working there. I worked for HUDCO for 14 years. And then at that point of time, I had a chance to travel most of the countryside. I was able to go to small towns, villages. I must have seen every alternate village in the south of India and in Goa. And one could see even at that time, this is the late 80s, this is about 87, 88 to 90, 80, 90, that water was a huge crisis, and that enough was not being done by the state because the state did not have the wherewithal to be able to do the investments to overcome the crisis. And particularly after 91, after the liberalization of the economy, it really scaled up. The challenges before us scaled up. So when I left HUDCO, I thought, well, let me try and understand what the water challenges are and what could be solutions. Therefore, I started with rainwater harvesting. That was sort of the beginning of the journey. It was both professional, because I'd studied that, and also personal, because I was traveling the country.
Okay. So, could you tell us about establishing of the Rainwater Club? That you had started.
Yes. So this was also the era of the web coming, the internet coming, and what the Rainwater Club was meant to do was to create a virtual space or a platform where people who had interest in rainwater harvesting, had knowledge and experience in rainwater harvesting, could all pool their knowledge together on the website and then make it available to people who are interested in implementing it or understanding it or putting it into policy. Mm-hmm. So the Rainwater Club started as an advocacy group on the web. It was a virtual site, and it collected information globally. That led to part of the Rainwater Club becoming members of the International Rainwater Catchment Systems Association. But overall, it was a bunch of enthusiasts trying to bring knowledge into practice.
And what do you think was that time, what was the kind of membership and what are the kind of people who actually joined with you in there?
Well, it was a fascinating journey because what we found out was that we were not alone. For example, the Center for Science and Environment in Delhi was actually bringing out this wonderful book called Dying Wisdom. Then they brought out something called Making Water Everybody's Business. Dying Wisdom captured all the traditional harvesting practices of all across India. And then Making Water Everybody's Business then started to suggest what people could do in the modern times to engage with traditional systems, but also bring in modern systems into play, right? At the same time, the Rainwater Club was getting associated with global colleagues and peers. So the International Rainwater Catchment Systems Association, which was a global network, was actually bringing global practices together and discussing about it and trying to understand and see how we could take it forward. So I got lucky to become the Secretary General of the International Rainwater Catchment Systems Association for 4 years. And that helped me to travel to China, to Brazil, to Sri Lanka, Iran, and many parts of the world. And I was looking at traditional systems which were being practiced there, and how people, society, and culture was engaging with water solutions. It was fascinating learning.
Yeah, okay, that's really very nice. I think, and that was the year, which was the year actually that was?
Well, it started off in somewhere in 1991 when we started the Rainwater Club as a thought where we started collecting data, and it's been running since then.
Okay. So now that has been your personal journey with water. That's how it started, right? Now,
yes,
in today's day and age of strong individuality and disconnected communities, like one apartment person doesn't even know who lives in the next apartment or in a community or something like that, with everyone is sitting in their air-conditioned villas. How do you think we can instill community spirit, and how can they come together to solve the water issues? Because I'm not going into water issues because it's a now sort of common knowledge. So I think I would just, how do we really get the community together to to move forward?
Well, the capitalist economy drives itself on individual self-worth and self-actualization. The old spirit of cooperative work diminishes, but it does so in cities. But the cities also do a strange thing. They create different kinds of communities. We've been in a state of flux over some time, trying to figure out where we belong, whom do we belong to. Just to give you an example, the city of Bangalore itself has almost doubled its population every 15 years. Now we're sitting at 14 million, right? So we were like about 4 million in 1991. So the additional 10 million who come to the city or who have grown up in the city will need to develop some roots and some anchors in the city. And that they do through a feeling of neighborhood, the neighborhood park, the neighborhood lake, or an issue like, for example, the steel flyover, which brought a lot of people together. So new communities are forming, and the web and the social media is providing us the opportunities to bring these new communities together, tied not in real life, but in virtual life. So we'll have to work through the virtual tying of communities and then the real practicing of those ideas on the ground. So for example, if I learn about constructed wetlands or wastewater, or rainwater harvesting, then I can seek the nearest lake near to me, see whether there's a community there. If it's not there, I mobilize the community. If it is already there, I become a part of that community. And together, we try to see whether those ideas on the web, which experts are putting on the platform, can then be translated to our lake, right? And so those are the kind of experiences that are happening in urban India. Similarly, in rural India, you see that there are a community of farmers who are coming together to understand organic farming or natural farming, or how to manage water better through watersheds. There are other communities which are forming. We have to step out to understand what is community formation in these times and try and engage with what the new methodologies are, the new communities are. And they're absolutely fascinating communities. Just to give you one example, permaculture is a community, which is a global community now. And they're doing some incredible work on the ground, but at the same time sharing knowledge globally. So these local to global interface is what is fascinating with communities. All is not lost. There's a lot of positivity and hope.
Mm-hmm. Could you give an example of any lake here in Bangalore? I mean, who has worked in this kind of a system, like local community to engagement?
Well, in Bangalore, I can give you the recent examples of at least 40 lakes where groups have come together to start these communities, what are called Friends of Lakes. They have different names for each one of them, Jal Poshan, so like that. And these communities are engaged in cleaning the lake, protecting it, making sure that the state authorities are interested in investing in making sure that the infrastructure comes up. Similarly, some 10 years back, we had very good work on solid waste management, for example. Communities have come together to manage garbage in their apartments or in their neighborhoods and have actually engaged with the city. And before that, parks were a new feature where people were working together to protect their neighborhood parks and make it part of the community space. Bangalore has seen a lot of community action on these fronts.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. No, I remember, Jakkur Lake, I think you have been really contributing there also quite a.
Well, there's a very fascinating community there, led by Dr. Anbuna Kamath and others, and I've been happy and fortunate to have helped them in trying to understand things a bit better than where they were, because I have some professional knowledge. And with the help of institutions, we've been able to really transform the lake and make sure that it's a wonderful place for citizens of the city to enjoy, especially children. And there's been a lot of political support also and institutional support, which has been crucial to the transformation of the lake. And I've been a part of that journey there myself. Yeah.
Or in this community, groups that have been made. But most of us, when we are talking about rejuvenation of lakes and even other water bodies and things like that, it's most of the time we have the government departments, and also if we go for CSR funds, then we have these MNCs involved, Fortune 500 companies, or any from wherever we want to source the CSR. How do you see and the biodiversity part of it, which actually makes these water bodies sustainable in the long run? How do you actually leverage that the regulations that they try to impose and the knowledge that you have as to how these things need to be done on the ground?
Well, what's happening is that the lakes of Bangalore themselves are transforming over the centuries, right? They were initially built as irrigation tanks. They had one sole purpose: to provide water for crop irrigation in the command area during 6 months in a year. Now, as the city has urbanized, it was faced by threats of wastewater coming in, garbage being dumped, land itself being encroached. But the new lakes, which are being protected, have to find a new role. The old role of irrigation is gone, right? So what is the new role? It could be flood protection. You could harvest all the stormwater and put it in the lake for some time so that the city is not flooded. It could be recharge, right? So it could recharge groundwaters and make sure that the aquifers are full. It could be an environmental zone. It could be a recreational zone where boating and motor boating happens. Or it could be an ecological zone. It could be a cultural zone. It could be a social zone. So there are many roles that lakes can play. Now, the question is, who decides what role should be played by the lake? Some groups may feel, oh, it's the ecological biodiversity that needs to be protected. Others may feel, oh, this is a recreational space. Now, take Sankeying, for example. It's not so much an ecological space as a recreational space. But take Jakkur as an example. It's much more an ecological space and it's not a recreational space. Two of these roles are in conflict, right? The ecological space means that you need protection from people. You need to let in few people to enjoy the nature and allow biodiversity to enhance. Whereas a recreational zone demands the creation of a different kind of a space. Now, all these are being negotiated by communities with politicians and institutions. We also have institutions of the 20th century, right? So they're not geared to the 21st century ecological biodiversity role in the urban areas. We need to persuade these institutions to look at these spaces also as ecological. So it calls for a tremendous amount of patience and staying power. We're not going to achieve it overnight. Similarly, with the CSR funds would like to see their names on the lakes and other places, right? So if you have to invest in long-term, CSR will take some time before it matures to be able to invest long-term and take a stake in it. Good old companies like the Tatas already do investments which are really long-term, or ITC for the matter. The newer CSR companies will see that kind of long-term investment with the community as a positive factor. For all of which, we need lots of space for a dialogue. And we have to keep the dialogue going. It can be frustrating at times, but it's important to keep the dialogue going and to keep persuasion going. The best can become the enemy of the good. We have to have the patience and forbearance for that.
Yeah, that is true. Okay. Um, I think in your long journey, you have been associated with several organizations of national and international importance, and
Yeah.
working on the same issues and related issues. Could
Right.
you talk about some of them for the benefit of the viewers?
Well, I started my career with the government. I was with the Housing and Urban Development Corporation, and it was doing some really pioneering activities at that point of time, looking at architecture as a form of intervention in public housing, bringing in new materials, innovative materials, the soil blocks, the mud blocks, for example, or hollow concrete blocks. All these were being introduced into the sector, and I was really happy to have been part of the journey with HUDCO, with the Government of India enterprise itself, because it taught me a lot. It gave me exposure to on the ground, and I was able to contribute in my small way. Later on, I joined this wonderful foundation called Argyam, which Rohini Nilekani has started. Argyam is a purely funding agency which works at funding water and sanitation projects all across India, and now it's looking at creating societal platforms for that. Now, that was again a wonderful opportunity. How are small groups engaged with water and sanitation challenges? What are the different typologies of challenges? Which are the sectors, groundwater, sanitation, wastewater, springs in the Himalayas? All these work was being funded by Argyam with a bunch of wonderful people on the ground. I can name one which is called Aquadam, which is the pioneering institution in groundwater management and in springs, Dr. Himanshu Kulkarni by name. But you take any geographical space in India, you find some or the other local group really committed and doing a transformational work. So with Argyam, one was lucky enough to have been exposed to this kind of knowledge. Argyam also created the India Water Portal, which is a one-stop platform for all forms of knowledge on water in India, and just collates and brings together everything in a very structured manner. I was lucky to have been a part of that. I've been with Biome Trust. I've been with NGOs in the villages. One NGO called Grama Vikasa, which has been working with an all-women team for the last 35 years in trying to ensure that women's rights and children's rights and water and sanitation in villages and food security is being protected. So in the 34 years that one has been in the field, one has been really privileged to have come across all these. And therefore, in a small way, I try to write about them when I wrote for The Hindu for 12 years. I would try to take these actions on the ground and put it to the lay person who was reading the newspaper to understand the canvas as it is and how beautiful the color palette that is emerging. There are challenges, but there are also solutions.
Mm-hmm. I think that's wonderful. I mean, really wonderful institutions that you spoke about. I think the viewers, most of the time, they do not know whom to connect to. So I thought that would be a very nice, where they can start.
But if you're in an academic place, then you must go to the India Water Portal. It will give you a heck of a lot of information. But if you want more information on the city, you should go to www.bengaluru.urbanwaters.in. I'll type that out later, bengaluru.urbanwaters.in. You get to know all the service providers and all the knowledge that is there on the water sector in Bangalore, including rainwater harvesting, wastewater recycling, and well digging.
It's really great. You also seem to be working on skilling in the water sector, which actually really nobody probably had thought about it before. And it's really a novel idea and really required. Can you tell us about Ajay Premji University's course on water and any other courses that you also might be, skilling programs that you might be doing it?
Well, Azim Premji University is a well-established university, and it's one of the most wonderful universities for social and ecological education, social environment and ecological education. So I run a small course, which is an elective, and that is on water, and I try to bring in the physical design aspects of water as well as the social and ecological and political aspects of water in a course which is open to students from public policy and development studies. Now, it's absolutely wonderful to be with young people, especially students, because they challenge you and you learn a lot. So there's a selfish motive there. It's not that I want to translate my experience to the student, but I actually want to be challenged and learn from them. And together we've had some wonderful journeys. We've ate masala dosas in the classroom, but we've also traveled to rural India and looked at what's happening with tank ecosystem or groundwater ecosystem or dryland farmers. We've gone to urban areas and looked at what's happening to urban wastewater, how it's being informally used by farmers, but also how formally it's being treated and reused in urban areas. So being in the education sector actually challenges you because you have to be on top of the game. You have to read a lot, and you have to learn how to interact and communicate with students, and then you learn from students themselves because they come from various geographies of India. So that's one element of life that I've thoroughly enjoyed, and I continue to enjoy, and hopefully I'll do that for some more years to come. The other aspect of it is that I've been part of the Indian Plumbing Association, though off peripherally, and they have done a wonderful job in trying to make us called green plumbers. So there's a green plumbing code that's been developed, and Indian Plumbers Association also runs programs for plumber skilling. This is essential for modern India, and more it is scaled up and more it's replicated, the better it will be. And like that, there are many other associations which are doing some great job with getting skills together. And I'll come to the livelihoods part of it later as we discuss the issue of the livelihood aspect with wells, because that's also another fascinating story.
Yes. Yeah, I think it's really wonderful because plumbers generally are most of these people in the building sector in India that we have, they are part of this unorganized, employment sector, which because also because they are not certified. They're not certified, you do not know, because many people suffer because of this, because there are people who can't do the work and they come and claim that they can do the work, and it's a really bad. So I think if we have courses like that through the Indian Plumbing Association, I think that would be a great help in taking this forward, to people.
True, and it works the other way around also. There are some very good plumbers who can't get their clients because their skills are not recognized by the formal industry, right?
Okay.
So there's a flip side to it. The plumbers themselves suffer if they don't have a certification or if they're not recognized for their work. So they have to work on it both sides.
Yeah, I think the genuine person always suffers once in a while. So I think that's how we have to try to stop that, and really take it that we are able to the demand and the supply can actually be put together so that we can have a better future. Now we come to your one of the most illustrious programs that you are working right now. In 2018, you launched the A Million Wells for Bengaluru campaign to make Bengaluru self-sufficient in water. Could you share your vision for your and our city with us through this?
Well, it's actually much earlier that one started with the recharge wells. It was as early as 2009. We gave the name to the million wells in 2018 to appeal to a larger section of the population, right? Okay. So here's the thing. The city of Bangalore gets about 970 millimeters of rainfall. And when you do a hydrological analysis, you find that only about 3 to 8% of this total rainfall actually gets into the aquifers, right? A lot of it, more than 90%, actually stays in the soil layer if there's any soil anywhere, or just simply runs off as flood waters, picking up pollution on the way and getting into our tanks and lakes with dirty water and then being shipped out of the city. On the other hand, there are these traditional well diggers from the Manvaddar community or the Bhovi community who have been digging wells for more than 1,000 years. There are 750 to 1,000 families of these well diggers, a lot of them still doing well cleaning, well digging, and looking for jobs because their livelihoods and their employment is threatened. You'd be surprised to know that Bangalore has at least 10,000 open wells, which has water, and the water is being used by people. 10,000 open wells with water at about 4 to 6 feet. Shivaji Nagar, Pottery Town, Rajaji Nagar, Yelahanka, Vidyaranipura, JP Nagar, you name it. Many of these old places have wells which have water in them. So the idea was, can we ensure that the livelihood of these well diggers is enhanced, that they get more jobs, and that the city gets water security? And how can that happen? If these well diggers dig recharge wells, and that every citizen is able to pick rooftop rainwater, filter it, and leave it into the ground, then we'll pick the recharge from 3 to 8% to at least 50 to 60%. Then we get to 50 to 60%, then the groundwater table will come up, our lakes will be fed with filtered water. The 400,000 borewells that we have dug, that citizens have dug in the city, will not run dry, but will have water in them. And the city will be able to use about 1,400 million liters per day to 1,500 million liters per day, which is the water we're getting from the Kaveri right now. So we'll actually create a Kaveri below our feet, right? That's the whole idea. And therefore, livelihoods and employment as water security, not large infrastructure as water security, is the vision behind the Million Wells scheme. We're progressing pretty nicely and decently. We've got to about 130,000 recharge wells. We got to get to 1 million. The million is an aspirational number. And if we get to 1 million, then Bangalore will never run out of water. Remember that the Niti Aayog and BBC have been telling us that water will run out of Bangalore by 2020.
Yes.
We hope to prove them wrong. And if we do that as citizens and communities of Bangalore, then we'll have set a benchmark for the rest of India to follow. That's the idea.
Oh, that's really great. And you have a lot of these well diggers who have become part of this whole community.
My job is not to dig wells. My job is to let community know that these well diggers are there and that they do the job. And my job is to make sure well diggers understand their role in rainwater harvesting, right? That they understand that rooftop rainwater can be pushed into the ground. So the well diggers are doing the job. I'm just a medium in between. I'm just a go-by, creating the platform for them. It's our program. The Million Wells is not my program. It's the program of the well diggers of Bangalore.
Okay. And how do you actually take it around to various apartments, groups and all that, or they approach you or approach them?
The well diggers take it around. So here's how the well diggers work. They go from house to house in an area and they know that their grandfather has dug a well there. So they go to that house and say, oh, can I clean it up for you? They go in April and May months. And usually the house owner recognizes these people and allows them to clean the well or deepen the well. When they're doing that, the neighbors can gather and see, oh, there's a well in my neighborhood. Is it that I can get water at this level? So a few more people then start to dig wells. And therefore, these islands of wells start to spread. And now it's mandatory in terms of the rainwater harvesting bylaw and policy. As I told you, I was fortunate enough to be there, that every building has to do a recharge well, right? So policy and law is pushing solutions on the ground. There are the solution providers in the well diggers. You create a platform and link both of them and you tell more stories about them, right? You let everybody know that this community is there and it can be done and there was this success. And therefore the message spreads through this personal stories and narratives.
So this portal that you just mentioned just now, through which you connect these people, what is the name of the portal?
It's www.bengaluru.urbanwaters.
Oh, the same. Okay.
That's right. That's the one.
The same one. Okay. That's really great. Okay. Through our simple talks that we generally have started, it as a campaign, call it for simple living, being the method to actually, mitigate all kind of climate crises that we are actually facing. Because simple people who live simply are generally sustainable by nature, by default, almost. So through this, actually, we are trying to make the common man, I think you've already been doing for a long time, aware of these issues by nudging them, slightly, because I think that's the best way, because if we just tell anyone to do something, they won't just come around and do it just by that, like that. So we nudge and generate interest in them about these issues and awareness as to, and the small steps, because everybody is busy and right now we have this COVID, so they're even more busy with doing other things. In this particular kind of scenario, we are looking at very small steps that can be taken by this common man in his house, in his immediate locality, which will ultimately can accumulate to much larger transformational impacts. What do you advise a common man to start with?
Well, I wish you had said in her house, because it's actually the woman who's dealing with a lot of this work with water and waste in the homes and in the apartments. So here are certain things that can be done, which are very easy. One of them is to plug an aerator to a tap. Just getting a simple aerator, which costs about 140 rupees to 150 rupees, can start to save you about 50% of the water in the tap itself. So it's a simple step. There are two other things which we can do, which normally we don't think of. One is to use eco-friendly soaps, right? And detergents. Now, Rita and Shikakai have been traditional soaps and soap nuts, which Indian families have been using. The modern version of it is now becoming more and more available. If you switch away from the phosphorus-ridden detergents and soaps to this Rita and Shikakai-based detergents and soaps, you do a lot of good for water. Not one of these soaps or detergents will harm the water bodies.
Okay.
The same grey water in the kitchen sinks and in the bath can actually then be picked up and then used for gardening without harming the plants there, right? So that's something that we can do at home. pick the kitchen sink water, pick the water from the washing machine or the bath that we have with these eco-friendly soaps, and reuse it for gardening. So simple things like that can start to help you. But then start to understand how much it costs the government to get water to our cities, what is happening to the lakes surrounding our neighborhoods, and try and see whether we can join the communities and the institutions to make sure that water is managed better in the environment.
Mm-hmm. So I think you have given us some really great insight, and I think lot of hope to solve the issue of water scarcity and flooding for Bengaluru in particular, and cities in general. And you have this vast experience of working on a national and international platform. One advice or one message, and you would like to give to your viewers. I mean,
well, the one message that I would give is engage, become water literate. It's a huge learning and fun journey. Make sure that you enjoy your process of engagement with anything, be it water, be it the built form, the house that you have, or the trees that you plant, or the lakes that you nurture, or the parks that you have to visit and walk around. Engage positively, draw fun and joy from it, and make sure that the place that you visit is better off than before you had stepped into it. And it's all possible, and it's great fun, and it'll give you great satisfaction at the end of the day.
Okay, I think that's really, really great, and Vishwanath, and thank you so much for giving us your valuable time. And we from CGBMT, from Center for Green Building Materials and Technology, we assure you that we would definitely like to join hands with you in all your movements that you are running, and to take it forward and collaborate with us, collaborate with your programs in future. And it was really great. I think I had been thinking about talking to you for a very, very long time. And since I have come to Bangalore in '94, I've been hearing about you. But today I had a good fortune to be able to speak to you directly. I had come to your place once, I think, through one of the programs. And I still have to visit your new office, which I have not done. And I think
right.
Nice. One last thing. You have a lot of things that you have done on your terrace, and growing rice.
Yeah.
All those things. Do you think you want to just give a small? I know I've been talk, but yeah.
No. The terrace is a wonderful space because in Bangalore you get all the sunlight there, you get all the wind there, and you get all the rain there. Usually we under design it. So what we've done is we've put an eco sand toilet there, a source separating, urine diverting toilet, which therefore converts human waste into a fertilizer. We call it our fertilizer factory instead of a toilet. We have a grey water system there where we recycle grey water and reuse it. We have rainwater harvesting systems. We have a solar cooker. We have solar water heaters and solar lighting systems. Then finally, we use all these products to grow rice paddy and ragi on the terrace. Mm-hmm. Now, the thing is this, that you can grow the ragi, or you can grow the rice on the terrace with grey water and a bit of rainwater. You can fertilize it from the eco-sand toilet. Once you cook the rice in the solar cooker on the terrace, then you can use the toilet in the terrace, and then the whole food cycle and water cycle can be completed on the terrace. And it also enhances biodiversity. It's a great space to spend about 45 minutes to 1 hour every day to engage with all the plants and all the systems there. And one wonders that if we can transform all the roofs of Bangalore into these kind of green roofs, and energy roofs and biodiversity roofs, we would have a wonderful landscape. And it's just a matter of 45 minutes a day. So I would encourage people to think out of the box when it comes to the terrace and see what can be done with it.
Okay. Just one small doubt, that once you have covered your thing with rice and paddy, these things, how do you harvest the water from the same terrace?
So you can drop a sheet like a polyhouse on top of it, but also when the heavy rains come, the rice paddy overflows. No? So, and it comes as a constructed wetland, and then the water comes into the ground. So the portion of a roof for drinking and cooking water, a portion for the rice paddy, a portion for
like that. Yeah.
A lot of these things are there.
That's really good. I think it was a lot of fun also talking to you. I think really, really great.
It's a pleasure.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And we'll look forward to engage with you in the future shortly.
Pleasure will be mine. Thank you very much, Neil.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Vishwanath.